Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Fadi. I'm here for week 11 lectorial. I'm going to start by talking about a couple of chapters today, specifically chapter 11, the first one, where we talk about project risk management, and then we are going to be talking about stakeholder management. Now, I just want to remind you of the important information. If there's any assistance you need, you can speak to me and you can speak to Dr. Ali. So please make sure you make contact with us if you would like any assistance. We're always very, very happy to go and offer you the help you need. So please make sure you make contact with us. And considering that the assignment is now going to be submitted by Wednesday, we'll remind you final time about the similarity that is, need to be prevented. No similarity issues. Please make sure you do your own work. No copy, no pasting, to make sure we're not going to have any issue there. So please make sure you go and you do no copying, no pasting, and do things in your own words. And please make sure you do the referencing, of course. Now, the first chapter today, we are going to be talking in the webinar about a number of topics. We're going to explain the concept of risk as it relates to project management. We're going to list its advantages of managing project risks. We're going to discuss the elements of project planning risk management. We're going to list the common sources of risk on information technology projects. We're going to describe the process of really identifying all of these risks and creating a risk register. We're going to discuss qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. We're going to discuss how do we monitor risks. We're going to describe how software could actually assist us into the management of all of these risks. And we're going to discuss considerations for agile and adaptive environments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I would like you to go and think about today, what should we do to manage the risks of IT projects? Now, everyone who's listening to the recording, please make sure you spend a minute to be able to go and try to answer that question yourself. How do we actually can go and manage the risk of IT projects? So I want you to think about it before you really try to go to anything further we're going to go and cover. But the thing is, I want you to go and bear in mind that the way we manage it is there is a process. You need to go and really, obviously just pause the recording to answer that question first before you listen to what I'm going to say. But eventually what you need to do, we need to go and identify all of those risks. We then need to go and assess the risk, how big it is, how small it is, what's the likelihood is it occurring, what's the impact of it if it's going to go and occur. You're going to think about all of those items there. You're going to then try to think about a way for you to go and really deal with that risks if it goes and becomes a reality. You're going to have kind of some sort of plans ready to go in case the risk becomes a reality, and then eventually you're going to go and try to implement that plan if the risk eventually does become a reality. So you're going to plan whether it becomes a reality, what are you going to do? And then later, if it becomes a reality, you're going to start to go and having to go and implement that particular plan. Risk management is very, very important. It's really an art. It's about identifying, analyzing, and responding to the risks throughout the life of the project. You might identify a risk at the beginning, and that's fine. But you need to bear in mind that risks, as you start progressing throughout the project, risk starts increasing, more and more issues starts appearing, and you need to be very well prepared to be able to go and really go and deal with them. But what you need to go and bear in mind is that a lot of time risk management is actually overlooked in projects. Like we don't really go and do it well. We might have a good project. We might, go and say, well, this could get us a lot of more money. But we don't, really go and get the outcomes correct. We don't actually achieve the goals we would like to do because we might not determine the scope very well. We might go and make estimates that is incorrect. All of these would ruin our ability to be able to get the projects delivered successfully. As I said earlier, there is a risk management process. You need to plan risk management. In other words, what process am I going to be following to be able to plan the risk management activities for the project? I'm going to need to identify all of those risks, and then I need to go and assess them, both qualitatively as well as quantitatively. Qualitatively, probability of them occurring, the impact of them occurring, quantitatively, numerically estimating the effect of that risks on our project objective and what we're trying to go and deliver. We need to plan how are we going to be responding to all of those risks in case they become a reality. And eventually, if they do eventually become a reality, we're going to have to go and implement all of these risk responses that we've planned as part of step number 5. So we need to really go and implement the risk response plan we have went and we have really created. And finally, we need to bear in mind that risk could continue occurring at any point of time within a project. And that's why we need to keep on monitoring all of these risks to ensure that, what is happening with them, and to ensure also if there are new risks for us to be able to identify all of those risks and be able to go and deal with them accordingly. Now, a lot of things do go wrong. In 2013, a survey, risk management was a high priority. Only 66% of companies said they often build it into their strategy planning decisions. So basically, they were not thinking too much about risk. Airline incident occurred in 2015, 150 people dead because one person had a mental issue, and he was flying that plane by himself. And then as a result of that, there's been a rule change to say, oh, we need to kind of think differently about how many people need to be in a plane flying, but at the same time, also about what sort of checks we need to go and do to test the psychological state of various pilots. So this usually always happens in response to something occurring. We need to try to be a bit more proactive whenever we can to prevent all of those issues from occurring. We need to perform a risk analysis. This is an example. We identify, let's say, the risk is an interface problem. What's the likelihood of it occurring for? What's the impact if it occurs for? How difficult is it for us to go and detect? It's a 4. When could it occur during the conversion state of the actual project? So how do we know how serious that specific risk is? You multiply 4 times 4.4, you get a number, and you organize all of these risks from the highest number to the lowest number. This is the biggest risk all the way to the lowest risks. The second chapter we would like to go and be talking about into more details in the webinar is project stakeholder management. The success of your project is very much dependent on getting the right people, working with the right people, and these right people are the stakeholders that we need to go and ensure we are managing the relationship with them. So what are we going to be explaining in the webinar? We're going to explain the importance of a project stakeholder management throughout the life of the project. We're going to discuss the process of identifying stakeholders and how do we actually create a register of all of those stakeholders. How do we kind of analyze them to understand what do they need so that we can really manage that relationship appropriately. We're going to describe the process of managing stakeholder engagement. We're going to explain methods of monitoring stakeholder engagement. Are we engaging with them well or not? We can describe types of softwares available to assist in project stakeholder management. And we're going to discuss all of these considerations for agile and for adaptive environments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about what should we do to manage IT project stakeholders. I want you to now go and pause that recording for a minute and go and think about it. How do we go and manage all of these IT project stakeholders? The simple answer I would like you to go and think about is I need to go and understand that stakeholders are different, their needs are different, and that's why I need to understand their stakeholders, understand what they need, before I'm going to try to go and understand what am I going to go and be delivering for all of those stakeholders. So first of all, let's understand who they are, how much they want to know about what's happening, how important is that for them, how busy are they, what do they want from us, and then from there, we'll try to go and create an environment where we are able to go and really deliver all of that information to them. It's very, very important to actually have stakeholder management. The reason why, because they are important for the project success. Like the Project Management Institute decided to create an entire knowledge area because they are important, and they created it in 2013. But the purpose of the whole process is to identify all people or organizations who are affected by a project. And the reason why is because we want to analyze the stakeholders. We want to think, what do they actually expect? And when we know what they expect, when we know what they want, we'll start effectively really engaging with all of their stakeholders in a way that they would like to go and get us to go and engage with them. So the process of stakeholder management is, let me understand who the stakeholders are. Everybody involved in the project or affected by it. Let me understand who they are. Let me plan stakeholder management. Let me determine the strategies to effectively engage with all of those people, because we need to understand really what do they want for we to be able to go and really engage with them. So let me plan how I'm going to go and engage with them. Let me manage the stakeholder engagement. In other words, let me communicate and work with the project stakeholder to satisfy their needs and expectations. Let me resolve any problems they have. Let me foster engagement in project decisions. Let's work together with them to be able to go and get the job done. And finally, let me go and monitor stakeholder engagement. Are they engaging with me? Are they basically asking for things, monitoring stakeholder relationship, adjusting plan and strategies for engaging with them as needed. If you see, for example, they're not engaging enough or they're not happy, we're going to have to go and take the actions to make sure we're going to get them to start satisfied with how we are really engaging with them. You look at something like this, really need to identify all of their stakeholders, who they are. VP of Operation, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Information Officer, who they are. Are they inside the business? Are they outside the business? What is their role? You know, how do we contact them? You need to understand all of those people, but you also need to understand a bit more about what do these people want, what sort of information they would like me to go and give to them for us to be able to ensure they are going to really be satisfied. So you need to really look about all of these things. You need to think about those people. Do they have a high power or low power? Do they have low interest or high interest? Because those who have high power and high interest, well, I need to go and make sure I'm going to manage them so closely. Those who have high power but low interest, I need to keep them satisfied. Those who have low power and high interest, I need to keep them informed, and not those who have low power and low interest. I just need to go and monitor them. So what does this tell you? It tells you we don't need to go and deal with every stakeholder the same way. We just need to think about their power and their interests and try to make our communication with them accordingly based on that information. The best practice, project managers are often faced with the challenges when we go and talk about managing stakeholders. Sometimes they simply cannot meet requests for important stakeholders. Well, that's fine, but what we need to do from the beginning is we need to go and say the following. We need to be clear from the start. What can we actually do for you and what can't we do for you? What is the consequence of any of our actions? We need to explain that. We need to have a contingency plan. If things don't go according to plan, what are we going to do? They need to know what are we going to do at that particular point of time. They need to know, all of this information because we want to go and avoid any surprises. Don't make something happen without them knowing that this was expected to go and happen. Take a stand. If something is not right, say we can't do it any other way because that's the right way for us to go and do, and make sure they understand why we're doing it in any particular manner. The third topic I would like to go and talk about is about really deployment and maintenance. When we go and deliver all of those systems, we need to go and deploy them to the business, and we then need to go and offer the right maintenance. So in a webinar, we're going to go and summarize the implementation deployment activities. We're going to discuss system performance and stress testing. We're going to discuss the training of users. We're going to explain the maintenance activities we need to go and undertake. And we need to think like this. We need to implement an activity. Let me program the software. Let me create a testing for every unit that I'm writing. Let me identify test cases of how people are going to use the system. Let me go and build the test cases and identify them. Let me go and integrate and test every component to make sure they work well together. All of these are part of us implementing a new technology in practice. Once I implement it, I need to deploy it to the business. So how do I do it? Well, I need to see, is it going to be okay to perform in practice? How do I do that? I need to go and perform system and stress testing. If I go and get 10,000 people to log into the system, is it going to work as expected? I need to go and perform user acceptance testing. Let's get the people to go and try the system. Do they like it? Do they enjoy it? Are they happy to go and use that system every day with no issues? I need to go and convert existing data from existing systems and transfer it to new systems. I need to build materials to train the people. And then I need to train those people on those systems. I need to configure and set up a production environment where it's going to be going live and it's going to be basically operating in practice. It's no longer a training environment. And we're going to go and deploy the solution so that eventually it's going to be given to the people and they are going to be using it in practice. Now, if there's any questions you guys have about your group assessment, it's very, very important you go and ask us those questions. Your assignment is due very, very shortly. If there's anything you need, please make sure you get in contact with your lecturers. We are very, very keen and very happy to go and help you out. Any questions? Please share with us, ladies and gentlemen. Do remember we care about you. I want you to make sure you read chapter 13 and chapter 11 and continue working on assessment 2 for submission on Wednesday and go over any videos we have loaded for you guys on Moodle. Thank you very, very kindly for your time and effort. Please continue working hard. We really appreciate your hard work. Thank you very much.